Hello students, welcome. We will continue with the first chapter, that is Introduction to Operating System. We have seen different operating system objectives, functions, its definition, components of computer system, roles and objectives of operating system, again operating system as a user view and system view. Then we have seen the evolution of operating system. Into that we have seen different types of operating systems. Now we will see computer system architecture. You can see that there are three types of computer system architecture, that is single processor, multiprocessor and clustered system. Single processor system. As the name suggests that there is a single processor. That means only one CPU is capable of executing general purpose instruction set, including instructions from user processes and other special purpose processes. The special purpose processors are in the form of device-specific processors such as disk, keyboard and graphics controller. Or on mainframe, they may come in the form of more general purpose processors such as I/O processors that move data rapidly among components of the system. So the advantages are it supports single user at a time. It is easy to maintain. There is a less chance to damage. Concentrate on one task. Along with that, there are some disadvantages also. Tasks take longer time to complete. Idle time is higher. If only one task is running and this task don't require memory or I/O, then this device remain idle. But other tasks need those devices, so only one task run at a time. Next computer system architecture is multiprocessor system. It is also having two types again, asymmetric multiprocessing and symmetric multiprocessing. Multiprocessor systems are also called as parallel system or multi-core system, which is having two or more processors in close communication, sharing the computer bus, clock, memory as well as peripheral devices. There are some advantages. It increases the throughput. By increasing number of processors, we expect to get more work done in less time. Economy of scale. Multiprocessor systems can cost less than the equivalent multiple single processor system because they can share peripherals, mass storage and power supplies. It increases reliability. If functions can be distributed properly among several processors, then the failure of one processor will not halt the system, it just slows the down. There are some disadvantages also. It is more complex. It requires context switching, which is slightly impact performance. Now we will see types of multiprocessor system. First is the asymmetric multiprocessing, which is also called as AMP. In this, each processor is assigned a specific task. This scheme defines boss-worker relationship. The boss processor schedules and allocates work to the worker processor. The boss processor controls the system and the other processors either look to the boss for instruction or have some predefined task. There are many advantages like this architecture can handle or work with two different operating systems working in the same environment. AMP has the required design prerequisites which allow the operating system to communicate with each other and share the resources accordingly. Again, it is faster than the symmetric architecture as there is no delay due to handshaking. It increases throughput. We can get more work in very less time by increasing the number of processors. Again, there is one disadvantage also. If one processor fails, then it will affect the speed. Next type of multiprocessor system is a symmetric multiprocessing. In this, each processor performs all tasks within the operating system. All processors are peers here. No boss-worker relationship exists between these processors. This figure illustrates that a typical SMP architecture. Each processor has its own set of registers, a private or local cache. All processors share physical memory. Advantage of SMP architecture, that is many processes can run simultaneously. As there are n number of CPUs, n number of processes can run without any problem. But there are some disadvantages also. A care has to be taken to control I/O to ensure that the data reach the appropriate processor. As the CPU are separate, one may be sitting idle, another may be overloaded, resulting in inefficiencies. Next is the clustered systems. Clustered systems differ from the multiprocessor system that they are composed of two or more individual systems or nodes joined together. Such systems are considered loosely coupled. Each node may be a single processor system or a multi-core system. Clustering provides high availability services. That is, service will continue even if one or more systems in the cluster fail. A layer of cluster software runs on the cluster nodes. Each node can monitor one or more other nodes. If the monitored machine fails, the monitoring machine can take ownership of its storage and restart the applications that were running on the failed machine. There are two types of clustering systems, asymmetric clustering and symmetric clustering. In asymmetric clustering, one machine is in hot standby mode, which is host machine, while other is running the application. The hot standby host machine does nothing but monitor the active server. If that server fails, the hot standby host machine will become an active server. In symmetric clustering, two or more hosts are running applications and are monitoring each other. This structure is obviously efficient as it uses all of the available hardware. However, it does require that more than one application be available to run. Next topic is operating system operations. As we have seen earlier, operating systems are interrupt driven. Operating systems don't work until some event occurs. If there is no process to execute, no I/O to service, and no users to whom to respond, an operating system remain idle, waiting for some event to happen. Events are signed by generating interrupts or a trap. A trap is a software generated interrupt. Some traps are caused by some error, for example divide by error, invalid memory access. Others are process problems which include infinite loop, processes modifying each other or the operating system. Trap is also known as an exception. There are two types of modes of operations, user mode and kernel mode. In user mode, execution is done on behalf of a user. In kernel mode, or you can say system mode, execution is done on behalf of operating system. When the computer system is executing on behalf of a user application, the system is in user mode. When a user application requests a service from the operating system through a system call, it must change from user to kernel mode. Computer system must ensure that a user could never gain control of the computer in monitor mode, and privileged instructions can be executed only in a system mode or a kernel mode. To ensure this, a bit called the mode bit is used. It is added to computer hardware to indicate the current mode, kernel or system. When an interrupt occurs, trap hardware switches to kernel mode at the correct service routine in the kernel address space. In order to have I/O protection, I/O devices needs to be protected from wrongdoing by the user. All I/O instructions are privileged instructions. Thus, user cannot issue I/O instructions directly. The user programs perform I/O through system call. The operating system must ensure CPU protection. A user program must be prevented from getting stuck in an infinite loop and never returning control to the operating system. To accomplish this, a timer is used. A timer interrupts computer after specified period to ensure operating system maintains control. The period can be fixed or variable. A variable timer is implemented by fixed rate clock and counter. The timer is decremented every clock tick. When timer reaches the value 0, an interrupt occurs. Timer is commonly used to implement time sharing. A counter is set with the amount of time that a program is allowed to run. Due to the complex nature of operating system, it is partitioned into smaller components. Each component performs a well-defined functions with defined inputs and outputs. The major role or function of operating system is to manage the resources connected to the computer. The OS manages processes in terms of scheduling of the processes effectively. It manages memory from the utilization point of view. Storage management is one of the responsibility of the operating system. Process management. A program in execution is called a process. A process can be considered as a job or time-shared program. It is possible to provide system calls that allow processes to create sub-process to execute concurrently. A process needs certain resources like CPU time, memory, files, and input-output devices to accomplish its task. These resources are either given to the process when it is created or allocated to it while it is running. Along with these resources, various initialization data is also allocated to the process when it is created. The process will be given the name of the file as an input and will execute the appropriate instructions and system calls to obtain and display the desired information on the terminal. When the process terminates, the operating system will reclaim the reusable resources. A program is not a process. A program is a passive entity, whereas a process is an active entity. Scheduling processes and threads on the CPUs is one of the responsibility of operating system. Again, creating, deleting both process, user and system processes, suspending and resuming processes, then providing mechanism for the process synchronization, and again for process communication. Main memory is a large array of bytes ranging in size from hundreds of thousands to billions. Each byte has its own address. Main memory is repository of quickly accessible data shared by the CPU and I/O devices. The main memory is generally the only large storage device that the CPU is able to address and access directly. Before the execution of the program, it must be mapped to absolute address and loaded into memory. During the execution, the program accesses program instructions and data from memory by generating these absolute addresses. When a program terminates, its memory space is made free and the next program can be loaded and executed. The operating system provides a uniform logical view of information storage so that the computer system is convenient for the users. The operating system maps file onto physical media and accesses these files via the storage devices. In a file system, file management is one of the most visible component of an operating system. Computers can store information on several different types of physical media like magnetic disk, optical disk and magnetic tapes that are very common. But a file is a collection of related information defined by its creator. The operating system implements the abstract concept of a file by managing mass storage media such as tapes and disks and the device that controls them. Files are normally organized into directories to make them easier to use. When multiple users have access to files, it may be desirable to control which user may access a file and how that user may access it. Some responsibilities of operating system in connection with file management are creating, deleting files, creating, deleting directories to organize files, mapping files onto secondary storage, backing up files on some non-volatile storage media. Next is the mass storage management. The secondary storage is required to back up main memory as a main memory is too small to accommodate all data and programs, and because the data that it holds are lost when power is lost. Disks are used as online storage medium for both programs and data. Some responsibilities of operating system in connection with mass storage, that is free space management, disk storage allocation and disk scheduling. Caching, the working of information is normally kept in some storage system. As it is used, it is copied into a faster storage system, the cache, on a temporary basis. When we need a particular piece of information, we first check whether it is in cache. If it is, we use the information directly from the cache. If it is not, we use the information from the source, putting a copy in the cache under the assumption that we will need it again soon. In the evolution phase of the computers, based on the need of the user and the involvement of new technology, the way computers were being used also evolved, thereby changing the ways of computing, namely as client-server, peer-to-peer, virtualization, cloud computing, etc. In case of traditional computing, we have already seen that batch system and interactive system. In batch system, these systems processed jobs in bulk with some predefined input from files or other data sources. In interactive systems, it is waited for some input from the users. In client-server computing, nowadays, PCs have more faster and more powerful. The centralized system architecture has become less attractive. Terminals connected to centralized systems are now being replaced by PCs and mobiles. The user interface functionality is now being handled by the PCs and quite often by web interface. As a result, many of today's systems act as a server systems to satisfy requests generated by the client system. This form of specialized distribution system is called as client server system. It is shown in the figure. These server systems can broadly categorized as a computer server or file server. The compute server system provides an interface to which a client can send request to perform an action. In response to the server executes the action and send the result to the client. A server running a database that responds to client request for data is an example of such a system. The file server system provides a file system interface where clients can create, update, read and delete files. An example of such a system is a web server that delivers files to the client running web browsers. Peer-to-peer computing. P2P system model. In this model, clients and servers are not distinguished from one another. Instead, all nodes within the system are considered peers, and each may act as either a client or a server, depending on whether it is requesting or providing service. To participate in a peer-to-peer system, a node must first join the network of the peers. Once a node has joined the network, it can begin providing services to and requesting services from other nodes in the network. Virtualization is a technology that allows operating system to run as applications within other operating systems. Virtualization is one member of a class of software that also includes emulsion. Emulsion is used when the source CPU type is different from the target CPU type. That same concept can be extended to allow an entire operating system written for one platform to run on another. Every machine-level instruction that runs natively on the source system must be translated to the equivalent function on the target system, frequently resulting in several target instructions. If the source and target CPUs have similar performance level, the emulated code can run much slower than the native code. Emulsion comes at a heavy price. Cloud computing is a type of computing that delivers computing, storage, and even applications as a service across a network. It's a logical extension of virtualization because it uses virtualization as a base for its functionality. For example, Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud EC2 facility has thousands of servers, millions of virtual machines, and petabytes of storage available for use by anyone on the network. Users pay per month based on how much of those resources they use. There are types of cloud computing: private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud. In public cloud, a cloud available via the internet to anyone willing to pay for the services. In a private cloud, it is run by a company for the company's own use. In a hybrid cloud, it includes both public as well as private cloud components. Software as a service SaaS. One or more applications such as word processor or spreadsheets available via internet. Platform as a service PaaS, a software stack ready for applications used via the internet, for example a database server. And third is the infrastructure as a service IaaS, servers or storage available over the internet. The cloud computing environment may provide a combination of several types. Thank you.